My name is Paul Bartholomew. This is I Want to Hold Your Band. I'm so fucking glad you're here. My mom listens to this and says it's good, but I could pull back on the F word. That's probably good advice. But anyway, today's guest is actor Rainn Wilson, and of course you know him from The Office. Nada. Whatever. But what you may not know is that he does all this wonderful work on exploring spirituality and happiness and the earth. And he's just done so many cool projects that I encourage you to take a look at. Not the least of which is something he's doing right now called Soul Boom. He interviews all these incredible minds that talk about just varied topics, spirituality, personal growth, comedy. It's a great podcast, and I encourage you to listen to it. Look at it. Watch it. You can do all those things. Anyway, today we talk about Radiohead and Elvis Costello and Bob Dylan and Tom Petty and so much more. Rainn is super knowledgeable about music, as you will hear. As always, the links to the songs we listen to are in the description. Click them and vibe along with us. So without further ado, I give you the devastatingly sexual Rainn Wilson. First piece of music, artist, song, record that you remember coming into your life when you were younger?
That's an easy one.
Oh.
When I was 5 years old, I saw Yellow Submarine with my parents, and it had just come out, and I don't know where we saw it, some midnight screening or a weekend screening or something like that. I was floored. I had never seen anything like that before. My dad only listened to classical music, and all of a sudden, there were these incredible pop hits and this psychedelia and animation and humor. In fact, I was thinking about getting a tattoo of the actual Yellow Submarine.
Oh, really?
Because the submarine just meant so much to me as a kid. So I begged them, I said, for my birthday or whatever, can I get the soundtrack to Yellow Submarine? So he went to the record store, like, my son wants the soundtrack to Yellow Submarine. They brought back, even better, Sgt. Pepper's. So Sgt. Pepper's, I played into the ground when I was a kid.
So what age are we talking?
This was especially between the ages of like 6 and 8. And I've listened to Sgt. Pepper's more than any other record. And I've probably listened to it 150 times. And here's my big issue with my parents. And this is a symptom of their parenting. Paul, what would you do if one of your daughters said, oh my God, I loved this Taylor Swift concert movie. Can I have a Taylor Swift album? You give them a Taylor Swift album and they listen to it over 100 times. What would you do as a parent?
I would explore music with them and find music for them.
And maybe another Taylor Swift album. Right. Maybe a Taylor Swift concert. Maybe a Taylor Swift concert movie. Maybe other artists that inspired Taylor Swift, right? My parents just left it at that. I had one album until I started buying my own albums at like 12 or 13. I had one album for 6 years.
Sgt. Pepper, that's it.
That was it. And I just played it over and over. And even me as a kid, I don't even know why I thought of this. Like, I knew there were other Beatles albums. Why did I never think to kind of go, hey, could I have another Beatles album? For whatever reason.
You were 6. I
was pretty young. Most of the listening was at ages 6 and 7. So I have a very intimate relationship with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That cover made you feel like, oh, there's a whole world out here that's mysterious.
Yeah.
And it's politics and culture, and there's a big magical world out there waiting for you. And the way it's a concept album and the songs flow into one another, it was just so different than Revolver or Rubber Soul that were, here's a bunch of our current songs that we're writing. This was maybe the first concept album. I don't know if you could argue that Pet Sounds was. I don't even know if that came out first or, how that would work. And the idea that there was this character of Sgt. Pepper's and Billy Shears, and there was like a show going on. It was very theatrical at the same time. It was almost like, I guess Tommy was another, but I think that was after Sgt. Pepper's.
I feel like it was.
Yeah.
Where did you listen to it? Did you all have a system and then you also had one in your room?
This was the 70s. We had a stereo.
Yeah.
We had a turntable,
Yep.
Techniques, and even though we didn't have much money, we had a decent stereo because that's what people did back then.
You had them.
And we had an 8-track player in the car. We had a cassette deck that we added to the stereo, but pretty decent speakers. So that's another great way to listen to it because it wasn't just a mono experience, and especially like A Day in the Life and the whole soundscape of that song. my dad listened to classical music nonstop. He would wake up in the morning, turn on the stereo, probably usually not put on he'd turn on the receiver. He wouldn't put on an album, but he would play this radio station in Seattle called King FM. And from 7 in the morning, pretty much most of the day, because my stepmom, Kristen, would kind of keep it going during the day. And then he'd get home and be playing it, and all weekend long. So I was subjected to hundreds of hours of classical music, non-stop. And even now, when I hear like classical music on in the background, I want to scream and pull my skin off. So do I hate classical music? No, of course not. I understand how rich and incredible it is, and the musicianship that's required, and the complexity of the compositions, etc. And I was even a bassoonist in my high school orchestra and played classical music for a few years. And then, interesting story, my dad's mom had died when he was a little kid under really tragic circumstances. And I asked him at one point, I'm like, how did you gain this love of classical music? When his mom died, my dad inherited her stereo and her classical music record collection, which he still had. So our big stacks of classical music records that we had, a big bunch of those belonged to his deceased mother. So for him, classical music was this kind of emotional connection to his lost mother. Yeah. And that's why it played from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. every single fucking day of our lives in suburban Seattle. But of course, when I started hearing rock and roll, I was like, oh, wait a second here. I'm going in an entirely different direction. And especially when I heard punk rock for the first time.
Wait, so a couple of those things then. So you had the Beatles going for a long time and your dad playing classical ad nauseum. But then when did punk rock come?
So pre-punk rock, suburban Seattle, late 70s, it was all classic rock. And it was radio, KISW, KZOK. I would go back and forth between. So I was raised on a diet of Led Zeppelin and Who and Rolling Stones, and then a lot of other great classic rock and crappy classic rock of the time. I especially loved ELO and Queen. So I really liked the heavily orchestrated, kind of crazy, more imaginative, tuneful, a little bit approaching pop sometimes, stuff more than the other classic rock stuff. And that was great and very satisfying. And of course, punk rock came out in the late 70s. Did we ever hear it on Seattle radio? No. There was a friend of mine from high school, and I cannot remember her name. She started talking about it, and there were a couple of punk rockers, and they would wear like Sex Pistols t-shirts. Right. But I didn't really know what they were talking about. And she made me a Clash cassette tape.
Ooh, a
mixtape circa 1981. And as soon as I put it on and heard London Calling and Give 'Em Enough Rope and some of the other albums and songs, I was like, holy shit, there's a whole other thing going on here. Then I had a Police compilation of the early Police, then Zenyatta Mondatta and Regata de Blanc, and early Elvis Costello, early Squeeze. So kind of like new wavy, punky new wavy, but there was also some straight hardcore Black Flag stuff that I heard, and Sex Pistols, of course, and ska. 82, I would say the axis of my music listening world shifted entirely away from classic rock to punk and new wave. I was 16 years old, and it really changed my life. And not only that, I realized too, like, hey, nerds can be punk rock fans. You don't have to be one of the cool kids.
Right.
The cool kids listen to Van Halen, but I could listen to Elvis Costello or XTC and wear like a tuxedo jacket and a piano tie and ripped jeans and Converse high tops, and kind of enter the John Hughes world of music nerddom. And that's what I did. So it not only shifted what I listened to, it shifted my way of being in the world. So we moved from Seattle to suburban Chicago in my junior year, started in 1982, and that's when I started buying records and cassettes. I had amassed a classic rock cassette collection from Columbia Records and Tapes.
Right, everybody, yes.
So, but then I started buying both cassettes because I had a Walkman and albums because I had a turntable at the same time. So I had both going on.
Do you remember some of the first ones that you, maybe around 16, that you bought?
I bought My Aim Is True by Elvis Costello. I bought the first Clash, which I didn't have. I remember buying the first New Order that came out.
Oh.
And that was also really mind-blowing. I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know that that was a possibility. And then all of a sudden on pop radio, you had a lot of new wave bands that were bringing in a lot of cool new sounds that was kind of starting to trickle into American radio. I remember getting that Violent Femmes, the first Violent Femmes, when it came out, and I went and saw them, and there were like 160 people in the audience.
Oh my God.
And that was like 82, 83 when they were first kind of hitting the ground.
Okay, so tell me about an artist that you like. Was The Replacements and the song Unsatisfied, which is from 1984. What is it about that particular song by The Replacements that you like?
Replacements are an odd fit in the midst of this. I would almost say they're closer to Rolling Stones than they are to punk rock. They're like Rolling Stones with a punk rock edge. But Paul Westerberg, the singer-songwriter, is a song craftsman, unlike a lot of other punk/rock bands of the time. He summed up teenage angst and rebellion in some really amazing ways. They were fanciful, they were funny. There's songs like Waitress in the Sky about stewardesses. Kiss Me on the Bus was a song. So some of them were like kind of joyful and funny, but then he also had songs like Unsatisfied. And that was just one that popped up. I remember as a teenager feeling so unsatisfied all the time.
That was 1984. Did it come to you in that time period?
That was when it came into. Now, one of the things I discovered around senior year and freshman year of college was Spin magazine. So, I had been reading a little bit of Rolling Stone, and you could kind of get an insight into some cool stuff that was happening in their record reviews. But Spin magazine was the one that was leading the way in terms of like where the cool new music was coming. They'd be like, there's this new band, Aztec Camera. They're amazing. You got to get this new album. And I was a huge REM fan. Junior year of high school, that was another one of my big ones. I bought all Murmur. But you find the other music nerds and you share. You're like, have you heard this one? And you do like cassette swaps. Yeah. But speaking of REM, I saw REM play in the like MIT cafeteria or something like that.
What were you doing at MIT cafeteria?
I was going my freshman year of Tufts University in Boston, and I went and saw them. And there were probably like 300 people there. This was early 84.
So annoying how you have so many people.
Spring 84. So I loved all that stuff. But also, it made me a little bit cool. Nothing else made me cool. I was on the chess team. I played the bassoon.
So what is it about Elvis Costello that speaks to you?
So I got My Aim Is True, one of my first rock albums of the punk era. And we had just moved to a new school. And I moved from suburban Seattle to suburban Chicago. And I signed up for my first acting class. Okay, so the first exercise in the first acting class was, and I was the new kid, was private in public. So how do you act in your room? What do you do in your room or when no one's watching? And do that in front of the entire class. So I brought in my turntable and speakers. I don't know how I did that. And I brought in My Aim Is True, that first Elvis Costello album. And I kind of brought a few things from my bedroom and just kind of pretended to be in my bedroom. And then I went and put on Mystery Dance by Elvis Costello. This was like week 2 of this new school. I'm a junior in high school. And I just start thrashing around like a lunatic and singing along and lip syncing to Mystery Dance, because that's kind of what I would do in my bedroom. I want to know about the mystery dance. Oh, don't you tell me, because I tried and I'm still mystified. I can't do it anymore, but I'm not satisfied. And the crowd went crazy. They went ape shit. And immediately after doing it, everyone was like, ah! And because everyone could relate. And these cute girls who rarely had spoken to me previous to me playing Elvis Costello's Mystery Dance in my first acting class, came up and were like, oh, you're the new kid. Oh, wow, Rainn, that's your name. You're from Seattle. Wow, interesting. Hey, you got to try out for the new play and come sit at our lunch table. And hey, we'd love to hang out sometime. And we might be having a party on Saturday if you want to come. And all of a sudden, I'm in an acting class. I'm singing a kind of punk rock song. And all of a sudden, I have kind of social currency. Right. And I remember in my head, I'm like, that's it. I'm in. I am leaving the other kind of nerddoms behind. I'm leaving the chess team behind. I'm leaving the bassoon behind. I'm leaving Model United Nations behind. I'm going all in on this drama thing. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, there are cute girls that if you make them laugh, they want to hang out with you. Oh, okay. The veil dropped. The veil lifted, the door opened, and that's what essentially started me being an actor, was the fact that I got attention from attractive and smart and dynamic young women that never normally would have paid attention to me.
Via Elvis Costello.
And I got to tell Elvis Costello this very story.
You did?
When I saw him in concert in Ventura, California, I think it was about a year ago or so. That that song literally changed the course of my entire life.
Wow. I don't know that song, so let's listen to like a couple seconds of it.
It's really important to note, I'm listening to it right here in 1982. It's a song written about sex, and the songwriter is admitting he knows nothing about sex. It's like, I can't do it anymore, and I'm not satisfied. The lights went out, were fumbling. It was in doubt. She thought that I knew. I thought that she knew. Both of us are willing, but we didn't know how to do it. Like, it's a song about people who don't know how to have sex, which is entirely revolutionary for all other songs coming out in 77, 78, where everyone is a master of sex.
Right.
You know,
right.
It's Billy Squier, stroke me.
Right.
You know, and I love that angst-ridden take on sex that he's probing, no pun intended, in the song. Other fun fact, the backup band that's playing with him, The News.
That's Huey Lewis and the News?
That's Huey Lewis's band. I don't think Huey Lewis, they were called Clover at the time, but it's the same, really solid rock band backing up Elvis on his first album.
Okay, so tell me about one of your favorite albums, which is Dylan's Blood on the Tracks from 1975.
So when this new world of kind of punk and new wave opened up for me, mostly junior, senior year of high school, freshman year of college, there was a young guy I was doing some plays with named Stephen Weber at Tufts University. And he would always talk about Bob Dylan. Other than what you heard on the radio of Bob Dylan, I had never really done a deep dive. And he gave me, I think, Highway 61 Revisited and Bringing It All Back Home on a cassette. Again, getting handed the cassette opened incredible doors
to
everything. The imagination. I remember hearing those Dylan albums, and my mom had some Dylan albums. I think Blonde on Blonde was one I remember that she had. And then that's when I did a deep dive. I was about 19, 20 years old. And then quickly after that, stumbled onto Blood on the Tracks, which is an absolute masterpiece. The production is flawless. The songwriting is incredible. The heartbreak that underlies it, it's the most, I think, still the most personal of all of Dylan's albums, really was revolutionary for me. That, hey, I can love punk and new wave, and I can be listening to, ska and squeeze, and I can also really love what this kind of nascent punk rocker, blues folk artist Bob Dylan was doing, especially in the 60s and 70s. And so I became a real Dylan head at the same time as liking all of that other stuff. I'm especially a fan of Dylan's late 70s stuff. Some of, even when he's a Born Again, I liked. Slow Train Comin' was great. But the Woodstock, New York albums, Planet Waves, New Morning, Desire, that's my favorite period of Bob Dylan.
Why? What is it about it?
Well, he played with the band a lot. I think he was influenced a lot by the band, and I love the band, and I feel like there's a lot of Robbie Robertson and Levon Helm and real tunefulness, kind of mournful stuff. He's experimenting a lot. And there's a kind of like a I don't give a fuckness about those albums where he's like, I'm no longer the spokesperson for a generation. I'm just making fun, weird, and wild songs with friends.
Yeah.
So the post Blood on the Tracks stuff is, well, some of that's pre, isn't it? But I love 70s era Dylan.
When do you go to music? What is like music for you? Like when do you listen? Are you listening to music all the time? Like your dad was classical. I mean, do you listen to it in the car? Do you have it on at home, or do you do like kind of a appointment listening with it? Is it on in the background? Like so Dylan, when you listen to a ton of him and you know it, when do you listen to him?
Here's my problem, Paul. Music used to be a lot bigger force in my life. And I don't listen to it near as much as I used to. Yeah. And my son gives me nonstop shit about this because he listens to music all the time. He's like, Dad, you don't listen to music. I'm like, that's not true, But he kind of is right. Like if I'm in the car and I've got long-term listening, I'll do a podcast or an audiobook.
Yeah.
Right? And when I'm working at home, I don't really want music on. If I do put music on, I used to do a lot of writing to Sigur Rós. It is a failing of mine that I have lost touch with kind of listening to music. But my son sends me songs, if not every day, every other day. That I try and keep up with what he's doing.
I want to ask about, because I don't know the album so well, and I'm a big fan of his. Tom Petty's Wildflowers, 1994.
The thing I love about Wildflowers, first of all, it was produced by the great Rick Rubin. Mm-hmm. And look at these first 5 songs. Wildflowers, You Don't Know How It Feels, Time to Move On, You Wreck Me, Babe, It's Good to Be King. Writing like one great song as a singer-songwriter is incredibly difficult to do. Writing a great song that like catches with an audience and is like a radio hit, but as a great crafted song, super hard to do. Writing 2 or 3 over the course of several albums, still really hard to do. Here on Wildflowers, the first 5 songs of Wildflowers, every single one is a masterpiece home run of singer-songwriter rock genre. And if you sit down and you want to kind of reminded of what it's like to be alive, listen to the first 5 songs of Wildflowers in order, and you'll just be like, holy shit, this is amazing. To craft music, melody, lyrics, and kind of a tight production with songs that 30 years later stand the test of time and sound like they could have been released last year is really, really hard to do. And sometimes you just have to have, he's not the first person I go to when I want to listen to some kick-ass music. I don't go to Tom Petty, but the amount of amazing songs that he's been was a part of for decades.
Yeah.
And their lasting value is pretty astonishing. I mean, there's not a lot of other singer-songwriters that have done what he did.
When did you come to it in 94 when it first came out?
I remember hearing the songs on the radio, but this was a Spotify find. I don't know why. I heard a cover of Wildflowers. I'm like, oh God, I always loved that song. And then I went to go listen to his Wildflowers. And then I heard the next song. And I heard the next song. And I heard the next song. I'm like, wait a minute, this is his throw-off solo album? This wasn't even like his big Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, like, radio-friendly album. It's pretty astonishing.
Well, so then let's land the plane. Like you said, let's land the plane with Radiohead.
Radiohead, let's face it, it's been absolutely the best band going for the last 25 years. And when I heard OK Computer in 1999, it was one of the last times kind of my life really changed. Like they were making music on a whole other level to everyone else. The way they used loops and distortions and found sounds is incredible. Their songs are so evocative, and they captured kind of the reality of the kind of alienated, disenfranchised modern man like no one else. And their musicianship is nonpareil. There's not a better guitarist than Johnny Greenwood. There's not a better drummer than Phil, what's his name? Can't remember his name right now. Phil,
don't need to.
Phil, the dude, the drummer. And the entire band is absolutely insane. You're not a Radiohead?
Well, I'm not like
deep dive. Did you even the Bends? Did you start with the Bends? That's a good entry drug.
That's what I think I need an entry drug, because there are a lot of good friends of mine who are big Radiohead fans, and it's one of those things. It's like anytime I listen to a song, I'm like, oh. Yeah. If I'm honest, I'm a little intimidated by it.
Do you know Fake Plastic Trees? Okay, put it on.
So we're gonna listen to
this. This is your gateway drug to radio. This is the way to get into Radiohead.
Okay, so we're gonna listen to Fake Plastic Trees. It's from the Bends. That's the album in 1995. Here we go. That's a great song.
Yeah.
I've never heard that song before.
Wow. Yeah. That's it. That's the real deal. And Ben's was written off as just a kind of, I remember the reviews of the time were like, oh, this is like a grunge wannabe band. Now Ben's is considered a masterpiece. But then when OK Computer came out, then they were like, oh. And then in Rainbows, I think it's hard to define what is their masterpiece, because then you can go into their really experimental stuff, Kid A. The other thing about Radiohead is like you can trace their evolution in in a beautiful way when they start as kind of like a pop, new wavy band, then a little grunge, and then kind of like they're discovering synthesizers, and then they're just saying fuck melody entirely. But In Rainbows is the album where they bring together their experimentation and their melody and that kind of vibe that is kind of dissecting the soul of the modern man.
Right.
And it's a absolutely astonishing album.
And Reckoner's a good one too.
Reckoner is the song.
Rainn,
Paul,
you're amazing for coming and talking to me.
I love your garage.
Do you? You could do laundry. You could work out on the elliptical or the treadmill.
There's so much to do here. There's even a Ms. Pac-Man machine in the corner.
/ Galaga.
Yeah. I love your podcast. I love talking about music. This has been such a joy.
And you, a delight. I think I'm chasing your experience that you had in high school and all that music and what you consumed and what you knew. I think that's what I'm chasing. And I am kind of reliving, but that experience you had, I think what this podcast has been for me and is for me, to do that. So I'm impressed. You're my light on the hill. Not really, but
I'm your North Star.
You're my North Star.
And it's amazing that you're taking this on in your early 60s.
Yeah. That's not fair.